Itawamba Community College. We are honored that you would join us tonight for our Unity program. I'm Dr. Jay Allen, President of Itawamba Community College. At ICC, we pride ourselves with qualified, caring employees, personal attention, and the task of creating unique opportunities for our students. The three ingredients for quality education and college success. A number of our outstanding students are responsible for coordinating this evening. Join me in thanking our Student Government Association, student activities, and all of those that have worked to make this event successful. We were honored today to hear from Dr. Bobby Solomon. Congratulations, he just defended his dissertation. Director of Admissions and Registrar here at the college as he presented to our Tupelo campus earlier today. We appreciate you doing that, Dr. Solomon. I look forward to hearing from my friend and ICC alum, Dee Stegall, tonight. Looking forward to that, Dee. I know it's going to be a great time with you. When thinking about this evening and what I may be able to leave with you, I thought about a simple yet powerful quote I recently read. Alone, we can do so little. Together, we can do so much. This quote belongs to a woman who was blind, deaf, and illiterate. Yet, that didn't stop her from becoming a world-famous author, activist, and speaker. Helen Keller was not a person who made excuses. She made things happen with the help from others through her passion for unity. The power of unity is known to all of us, but we often forget it when it comes to our individual success. John Maxwell, one of the greatest inspirational authors of our times, in the book Success Journey, wrote that success is not a trip that you take alone, but it is something that you take while surrounded by others. I encourage you to surround yourself with talented individuals who make you better and challenge you to go further. Make sure they are not just like you, but embrace their differences, for it will add to the success of your organization and to your personal success. Together, I encourage each of you to multiply your potential and ensure your success by unleashing the power of unity. Again, welcome to ICC, and we hope you enjoy your evening with us.
Hello, good evening. I'm Joshua Vine. Today I will be doing the pledge and the prayer with y'all. Will you stand for the pledge, please? I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And will you continue to stand and bow your head for prayer? Father God, I just want to say thank you for letting us all come as one today, Father God, for this unity program. Father God, please let us travel safely on the highways and byways, Father God, tonight as we leave, Father God. But let my brother D share his message with a lot of feeling and a lot of honor tonight, Father God. And we all love you as a whole and as one unit. In Jesus' name I do pray. Amen.
At this time, I'd like to take a moment to introduce the speaker, Dee Stegall. Dee Stegall is a native of Smithville, Mississippi. He graduated Smithville High School in 2015 and went along to get an Associates of the Arts from Itawamba Community College in 2017. At his time in ICC, he served in a number of roles such as RA, co-founder of the Lynn Report, announcer for baseball, BSU leadership team, and student body president, among other things. Thank you as I welcome Dee Stegall.
How's everybody doing? Now y'all gotta talk back to me. I'm a talker. I like conversation. How's everybody doing tonight? We're doing great. Good. So I am, first off, I want to say thank you all for letting me be here today and share my message with you guys. This is a topic that's really close to my heart, something that I take a lot of pride in, and so to be able to come back to a place that has so many memories, a place that I really consider that made me, it's a true honor and a true privilege to be here. So today I want to talk about unity, and specifically I want to talk about changing the culture. As you see, I have the hashtag up there. That's a hashtag personally that I've used for about a year. So if you hear something tonight that you like, and you're on Twitter, Instagram, whatever, please use that so I can find it, we can connect through there. Those are my social media handles. When I was thinking about what I wanted to talk about today and where did I want to start, there was something that I would say was really laid on my heart, and I went back and forth about it, and I was like, I don't really know if I want to tell this story. This is a story I've told a lot of people, but when it comes to unity and changing the culture and things of that nature, it's something that I know for me, it helped shape me and it really helped mold me. And it was the time that I actually almost ran into trouble with the law. Baseball is something, you gotta know, I love athletics, I love sports. I was a 3-sport athlete in high school. Even though it doesn't look like I played a little football too. So I did a lot of things in high school. Baseball was something that I always loved. If you ever seen Mr. Chad Case, every conversation, we could be talking about world hunger, ending crises going on in the world, whatever it is, the conversation is always going to end with baseball in some kind of way. So baseball is something that's always been close to my heart. My sophomore year was when I started umpiring Little League baseball, along the same time that I was playing high school baseball. So I started umpiring Little League baseball, softball. I did that for about 5 years. I still do that occasionally. And then my sophomore summer, the summer that I was leaving ICC, I just graduated and was about to transfer to Mississippi State. Everything changed for me. It was a pretty routine day. I was calling a ball game, a tournament close to a local ballpark close to here. And of course, parents are yelling and they yell like, you can't see, you need glasses, all these different things. Nothing I've not ever heard before. It was nothing out of the ordinary. And then it was me and my friend. My friend also went to ICC here. And we got done with that game. And the only game that was left was a championship game. And so we leave, we go get our paycheck or whatever. There's some little kids there, we're playing with kids or whatever. And then we leave and we're going to our car. And so as we walk into our car, just so happened the parents of the losing team of that game walk by and they are yelling at us, of course, all kinds of different things. We're ignoring it. Finally get to the car, and so me and him, I'm kind of posted up on the car, and we're talking or whatever. And through this whole process, they're still yelling. And I'm just gonna keep it real with y'all tonight and let y'all know. So I would say some pretty personal things, but I was standing there and we were talking, and one man in particular, he walks past the car and he says, "That's why you suck, you black and left." Those were his exact words. Of course, he said the whole thing. And I turn around, of course, and when I turn around, the parking lot's full of kids, their kids are leaving the ballpark, whatever, parents around, whatever the case is. And so I held my temper, and I simply said, I'm sure all these parents appreciate you cursing in front of their children, and racism is a good look too. And I turned around, and I started back talking to my friend. And of course, out of all the parking spots in the parking lot, he's parked right beside me, of course, just my luck. And so he comes, and he's walking beside his car, and he walks up beside us, and I'm still sitting there talking or whatever, and he's like grabbing himself and talking about, that's why I'm a redneck boy, and all these different things, da 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 da. And eventually I turn around, acknowledge him, I step to him, and I say, get in your car, you don't have anything else to say. And then he proceeds to get in the car or whatever. Small guy, he was smaller than myself, and you see I'm pretty skinny, so you know it looked like he hadn't eaten no chicken or nothing in forever. It looked like it had been years since he had eaten. So really small guy. And so I turn back around, I'm talking to my friend, and we're talking about what just happened at this point, and we're in shock, we're in awe, we're like, ain't no way that this just happened. And I'm sitting there, and he rolls down, he cracks his window, and I'll never forget it. And he says, that's why I'm gonna call it KKK on you, boy. So two things. First off, I do not take idly to the Ku Klux Klan. Obviously, that's something that is very hurtful for my people and a number of people in the world. And then two, just so you know, a pet peeve of mine, I can't stand being called boy. I don't know what it is, but I really hate that phrase. Like, that's a phrase that can just like really set me off. And so I'm standing there, I'm talking to him, and he says that, and then at that point, I just snapped. And I distinctly remember my first thought was, I'm about to get arrested. And I turned around, and my car door was open, I slammed my car door, and as I'm walking towards him, he rolls his window up real quick because it was just cracked. He rolls his window up and he locks his door. And so at that point, I start jerking on his door. I'm trying to open the door, and my friend grabs me. My friend is much stronger than me. He grabs me, wraps me up, whatever. He starts pulling me away. He's like, listen, it's time for us to go. We gotta get out of here. The man's wife walks from around the car, and she has one of those fold-up chairs, one of those chairs that you see at all the ball games or whatever. And she takes it and she reaches it back like she's gonna hit me. And I know she's not gonna hit me or whatever, we look eye to eye. And then she drops it and she grabs me by my collar. I had on my umpire shirt, you guys see it, bright blue or whatever. And she grabs me by my collar. And of course, I'm never gonna put my hands to a woman, but I grab her to get her off of me. I grab her and lift her up or whatever. And so at this point, parents are watching, the assistant coaches are watching or whatever. So they come, they grab us. Two guys grab me and they pull me away. And as they pull me away, then the man proceeds to get out the car. You touch my wife again, I'll keep you, da 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 da. And so by this point, I had taken my shirt off. I thought we were about to fight. And then, no lie. I'm a skinny guy, I'm not a fighter. I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you guys and be like, I would have beat it down. I don't know what would have happened. But I know that I was about to go. And so at that point, parents are grabbing their phones, they're calling the police, different things. My friend's like, hey, we gotta go. And then the husband gets out, he starts showing, so my friend runs back over there. And it's pretty chaotic at this point. And then the assistant coach of the losing team, he grabs me or whatever, and he's trying to calm me down, quote unquote. And he tells me, he says, you need to learn how to be the bigger man, son. He was like, and specifically he said, for the call that you made today, I should be in your behind, but I chose not to. And then I said to him, I said, everything that just happened, and you want to talk about the ball game. And so then I proceeded to walk off. He tried to stop me or whatever. I walked off. Long story short, we got out while the game was good. Nothing happened, so that was a blessing. I'm still here today. Nothing happened, but I left that ballpark. And the reason that I tell you guys that story to start this is because when we're thinking about unity and we're thinking about coming together, the first thing that we have to realize is that you cannot fight an enemy whom you have not identified. And so what we all need to understand is that the very opposite of unity is hate. A lot of times we think it's not being together, but hate specifically is the action, and not being together is what happens because of hate. The reason I tell you that story to start is because for a short period in my life, because of those experiences, other experiences that I had early on in my life, I found myself in a space where I disliked white people. To be quite frank with you, which is ironic because my girlfriend at the time was white. So, of course, I didn't dislike all white people, whatever, but I had a stereotype of a person in my head based off of that image, based off of what had happened there. And in my mind, every time I came in contact with somebody who looked like that, who gave off that same kind of vibe, I specifically in my mind went to their racist, their da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and I didn't like them, strictly based off of the color of their skin. And then, a few weeks later, I'm reading the Bible, and it taught me a lesson that is very simplistic and carries on far across spirituality, even if you are not a believer of the faith. But I was reading, as I was reading, I go through and I turn to a chapter in Ephesians. And that verse specifically says, our battle is not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and rulers of the darkness, and so on and so forth. And so I'm sitting there, and I'm reading this, and I feel like I'm being convicted to my heart, because at that moment, I realized a very fundamental lesson about hate. And that is, in a world of unity, and in a world where we're striving to be unified, we have to realize that our battle is not against a people group, but it's against an ideology. And that ideology is hate, bigotry, racism, phobias, whatever the case is, whatever, anti-Semitism, whatever you want to put into that category. The opposite of unity is hate. And a lot of times, we find ourselves in a space where we are not hating an ideology. We say that we're hating hate. We say that we hate things like racism, or we hate things like bigotry and all these different things. But in actuality, we really find ourselves hating a specific people. And so when you look I wanted us to realize that our battle is not against a people group, it's not against a specific political party, and in the fight for unity, it is not a political battle. A lot of times when we talk about things such as hate, we're so quick to just throw it out. Well, that's politics. I don't want to talk about politics. Those things have political implications a lot of times, but those things specifically in the world of hate is a human-to-human interaction. It's a human-to-human issue. It has nothing to do with being Democrat, it has nothing to do with being Republican, it has nothing to do with being moderate, it has nothing to do with who's president. It has simply the fact to do with human-to-human interaction. And how do I feel about you based on how you look, how you think, the way you act, things of that nature. And so once we find out who we're fighting against, then you can properly fight against them. You cannot beat something that you cannot identify. And so when we're going towards and we're fighting for unity and we're saying, how can we become unified as a country? Because as we all know, the big elephant in the room is no secret. Every time you look on the news, it seems like our country specifically is more divided than it's ever been. And so we sit there and we think, how do we bring it back together? How do we bring each other back together? And so you look and, okay, so first, okay, I found out, identified the enemy, so what's the next step? What do we do next? And I would say that it's our approach. One of the best TED Talks I ever heard was on the Ebola crisis. Everybody remember the Ebola crisis? Everybody remember that? I know we got some younger people on this. It wasn't that long ago. Ebola crisis broke out in West Africa. It was something that killed a little over 11,000 people, and specifically a little over 16,000 plus kids were orphaned, which the term orphan just simply means they have lost one or more parents. It was something that obliterated an entire section of Africa, essentially. Wiped out villages, wiped out tons of different areas, tons of different people groups. I watched a TED Talk on it, and a woman by the name of Shalina, I'm not even going to try to pronounce her last name because I will mess it up. But she's a bright woman. And she was one of the lead health consultants as far as implementing the strategies that they had to defeating Ebola. So everybody knows Ebola is a virus, something that's going around that's killing people, all these different things. And I don't know if a lot of y'all remember it when it was happening in the news, but the first couple strategies that they tried were just not effective. People were still dying, villages were still getting wiped out, and a lot of news outlets were blaming those people groups, those villages, because those people were not following the instructions of the doctors, of the people who were on site. So if you don't know anything about Ebola, the one thing you gotta know is that it was in its most dangerous form with a dead body. Any form of a dead body, just because there's not an immune system, a lot of other things that are going on, it's very easy to transmit from that point. So they were sending in groups of people to go in and take care of the bodies, but the people in the villages were not allowing them to take care of the bodies. So they were still handling the burial themselves, doing all of that, and then in turn they were getting sick. So husbands were getting it, dying, and then wives were getting it because they dealt with the dead body of their husbands, so on and so forth. And so they're sitting there, and she sits them down, and they go and they have a sit down with some people in the village, and they're trying to figure out, we're sending you the correct message. We know why this is going on. Why won't you all listen to us? And she said a very specific quote from one man who said, what kind of life would I live if I couldn't even bury my own father? And at that point, they realized that the most important thing to those people was not what they knew, not the information they had, not the tests that they were studying, but it was their own culture. And that's the case with most people groups, the case with most people. And so what they figured out, what she stated was, we took a very virus-centered approach at first. All we were worried about was the Ebola outbreak. And we did not even once consider the people who were being affected by it. So once they did that, They had that sit down, and then people from that community or whatever, they went forward and they told them, they said, it would be small things like changing body bags from white to black. Doing things like having people who are in that group who are going and taking care of the bodies, having people from our own village, our own family members, our own cousins, help you take care of the body. Those are things steps that you could take, that we would go a step further and meet you all in the middle. And that way we could be safe and at the same time keep our culture. And the reason I say that is because when we're sitting there and we address what the enemy is, and then we go forward, something that we have to realize is people do not care how much you know until they know how much you care. And a lot of times we forget that. And we go and we're scared to have these conversations with people. And most importantly, we're scared to listen to people. When we sit down with individuals, a lot of times, we don't want to sit there and listen to why they feel like kneeling for the national anthem could be offensive to them and their family member who is in the military. A lot of times we listen to those things to give an argument back. A lot of times we don't want to sit and listen to black mothers who are scared for their sons to go out because they're scared of what might happen to them and how they might be perceived based on the color of their skin. Because a lot of times when we engage in those conversations, we're simply listening to give an answer back. And I know it because I do it. I'm the world's worst. I do it with my mom all the time. My mom will sit there, and she's bad about, I'll be at school, you know, I feel like I'm working hard at school, I'm doing all these different things at school, and as soon as I walk in the door, hey, I need you to do this, I need you to run this door, I need you to take this trash out, I need you to go do this, and do this. I'm like, Mama, come on, baby, I just walked in the door. I'm like, can I sit, can I chill, can I do something? And then we'll get going, we'll get into it. And then she'll start talking about, you think you go to school and you do all this? Well, I'm here working a full-time job. I keep up the house and da. And then she's saying all this stuff. I haven't heard a word she said because all I know is I'm getting ready to say, Mom, do you know how stressful this is? Da. I know it because I do it all the time. And that's a funny way of putting it. But a lot of times we do that with our peers, with people in our community, our co-workers, sometimes even our spouses. And we go through and we never listen to what people really have to say. We just listen to simply give a rebuttal. And so I would say the next step in becoming a unified culture is becoming a people-centered culture. There is nothing in this world more important than people. You will never, no matter how much money you have, no matter what the case is, there is nothing more important in this world than people. And so once we listen to people, the next step is embracing our differences. Now, I can tell you the first time that I just really, really embraced somebody else's culture, and I'm gonna walk around. I stay in the same spot. So, to be quite honest with you guys, I'm gonna be very blunt. I don't know how many of you all have been to a black church, but a black church can go all day long. My man right here shaking his head, he's like, yeah, I just went this Sunday. I ain't got to like 2 o'clock. So I grew up, my father's a minister, all these different things. So I grew up in the church, I was drugged in church as a kid. So I'm used to, D doesn't get out of church till like 2 o'clock every Sunday, like 1:30, 2 o'clock. I done missed the buffet lines, ain't no cheap food for me, like I've missed it all by this point. So I grew up in Smithville. If you don't know anything about Smithville, Smithville's predominantly white town. So about my sophomore year, one of my best friends, his name is Hastings McKissick, he went to school here. He asked me to go to church with him. I'm like, yeah, cool. I go to church with you. You know, Smithville Baptist Church, a white church. So I go, I pull up, I'm a little bit late, so I go sleep into the balcony right there. They're in the middle of the song service. And so they're singing, whatever, they get done, they pray, take up collection. So my first thing is, they only take on 1 collection. So I don't know if you know anything about historically black churches, but we take on about 5 collections. Just to be real with you. We got the building fund, we got the benevolent fund, we got the passive appreciation. We got like 5 different ones every Sunday. So So they go through there, make that loop one time, and then they sit back down. I'm like, oh wow, this is wow, this is amazing. Okay, only got to give $1. That's crazy. I had 5 months prepared. I only got $1. And so then I'm sitting there, and then the pastor gets up. Pastor's a great friend of mine now. Somebody I really consider a mentor. Gave a great sermon, and then they go through and they sing a song or two. And then he says, kind of goes through some announcements, and then he goes through and he says, okay, let's pray. And he prays, and everybody starts getting up. They shaking hands, they walking around. I pull my phone out, it's 12 o'clock. And so Hasty sitting beside me, I said, what y'all doing? What's going on? He said, we're done. And I said, it's 12 o'clock. And I'll never forget this as long as I live. He said, yeah, I'm really sorry. We usually get out about 11:45, 11:50, so. And I'm looking, I'm like, what? So then I'm like, look, I'll change my membership over right now. Call me a member. This is gonna be a breeze. This is easy. This is no problem. And I sit there, and then we start talking, and he's telling me about the different things, and then I tell him, I'm like, oh, I'm not getting out till like 2 o'clock. And he's like, what? What are y'all doing? And I'm like, I don't really know. We be singing and that. It's normal. It's the same type stuff. It's just, it goes a lot longer. And I remember specifically, that was my first time really interacting with another culture. Now, I tell you that story, and it's a funny story. But I tell you that to say, something that we have to realize is, if we are not in a world, and specifically in our world, if we are in our world, and everybody in our world looks like us, thinks like us, acts like us, and believes like us, we are not a part of the solution. And that was something that I was learning a long time ago, and I didn't realize it until recently. Because we can talk about unity, we can talk about coming together all we want, but it's easy to come together when you're surrounded by people who are just like you. It's tough to come together when people are different than you, when they think differently than you, when they believe different things than you believe, when they look different than you, all of these other things, when they have different socioeconomic status, all these different things. Something that we must realize is that diversity is inherent and inclusion is a choice. We live in a world today that's very politically correct. And so by nature, places that we go to school, things that we do at jobs, a lot of different things like that, it's going to be a diverse space. There's going to be people who think differently, who act differently, all of these different things. But a lot of times, we do not include these people in the things that we are doing. This is my personal opinion here. You can totally disagree with this. I believe that every individual in their life at some point should be in a room where they are the minority, and they should be in a room where they are the majority. And I guarantee you, it will change your outlook on a lot of things. If you've been living your life, however long you've been living, and when you sit down and really think about it, you're like, wow, I've never really been in a room where I'm the minority. That could be a problem. And on the flip end, if you've lived your entire life and you've never been in a room where you've been the majority, that could be a problem. Because when we don't sit and we don't experience these other experiences that other people have experienced, a lot of times we get stuck in this trap. And that's how we fall victim to things like what I was just talking about initially, where we get stuck on my hate is towards a people group instead of an ideology, and I'm stuck. I can't get past my perception of you, and I'm not going to engage in a conversation with you because of how you look. I already know how you think in the back of my head. Call those microaggressions. things like that we don't even realize half the time. And we're going through life and we're living life that way, and we've never ever thought about doing things differently. I can promise you, and I can promise you, and I can promise you, the world will never see unity, and your world will never see unity if you continue to do the same things that you always, always, always do. So you have to realize that diversity is inherent and inclusion is a choice. And one of the final things that I'll say is, in the fight for unity, respect is the utmost important thing. I go to Mississippi State University. Dr. Keenum, I don't know how many of y'all have ever met him. He talks about respect all the time. And I always pick at him because he does this thing. I don't know if y'all ever noticed, but like, Obama did the same thing. I think it's what all profound people do. Like, they talk like this, and they ball their hand up and they talk to you like this. And he always talks about respect. And I always used to pick at him about how he did it. But it never resonated with me, what he was saying, until I sat down and really thought about it one day. And this is not a plug, I'm not saying everybody should go to Mississippi State, but I know since I've been to Mississippi State, ethnically speaking, Mississippi State is the most diverse school in Mississippi. Every county in the state of Mississippi is represented, every state is, in the United States is represented, and over 80 plus countries are represented. So technically, even though we're a smaller school, it's an ethnically diverse school. And I looked and I found myself in a lot of different spaces where there were a lot of different cultures, a lot of different beliefs, a lot of different races, a lot of different genders, a lot of different socioeconomic statuses. And the common link that I can find in every single one of those rooms is respect. And staff members who are here can tell us they've worked here, they've worked other places, where that is the single most important thing in the room. And so we live in a day and age, the social media generation, where there are a lot of slogans as far as respect. People have a lot of different thoughts on respect. I put down some of the thoughts. People, respect is earned, not given. Coach used to preach that. I played football for 4 years. I was okay at it. I didn't like getting hit, so I was fast and I ran. Got scared. I'm a skinny guy. Coach used to preach that. Coach used to scream that. Those ingrained in us. We hear things like, this is my favorite one. I don't know if y'all get on Twitter. If y'all don't have Twitter, y'all should get Twitter. I see a lot of cool things on Twitter. People make me laugh on Twitter. People are always saying, I think the word for 2018, 2019, I'm matching your energy. How many people, I know y'all not heard that before. You shaking your head. I know you done said that. That's okay. I'm matching your energy. Whatever energy you give me, I'm matching it. All 2019. What reason do I have to respect them? I want to challenge every individual in here. Moving forward, I would argue, why not treat every individual you come in contact with respect because of who they are and who made them? At the end of the day, they are no different than you. And we hear that a lot. But I like to think of relationships and people in the form of currency, like money. So if I had a $20 bill, and I call somebody, I say, do you want a $20 bill? Of course you say yes, unless you're crazy. Or unless you're rich, you might be rich. And then what if I took that $20 bill, I threw it on the ground, and I stepped on it. Gum on the bottom of my shoe, hold 10 yards. Stepped on it, I picked it back up. I guarantee you still want that $20 bill. I took that $20 bill, I told you beforehand, I have not showered in 5 days, and I stuck that $20 bill in my armpit. I guarantee you when I pulled that $20 bill out, you would still want that $20 bill. You might not keep it close to you, but you still want the $20 bill. If I took that $20 bill and I spit on it, and I balled it up, and I threw it at you, you would be mad. You might act like you're gonna walk off. When I turn my back, you're gonna turn around and pick up the $20 bill, and you're gonna watch off mad. More than likely. That's what the average individual would do. Because no matter what that $20 bill has been through. And no matter how many times it's been stepped on, and spit on, and crumpled up, and wrinkled up, and you might not be able to put it in the vending machine, you will still take it to the dollar store and get you some honey buns, because the value of it is the same because of who made it and what's backing it. And I would argue that every individual, when you're looking in the terms of respect, and I want you to keep this in mind for everybody you come in contact with and yourself, because a lot of times the hardest person to respect and the hardest person to love is yourself. I would argue to keep in mind that no matter what you've been through in your life, no matter who has spit on you, no matter who has spit on them, and no matter who has stepped on them, no matter who has stepped on you, your worth has not changed since the day that you entered this world because of who made you and because of who's back. It's a fight. Unity is a fight. Think about the people in the world who fought for you. Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King, a lot of great politicians in the world. These people fought and fought and fought because it was worth fighting over. So D, what does that look like in my life? I'm not telling everybody to leave here and go be a social justice warrior, and quit your jobs and drop out of school and go pick up a picket stick and march around. I'm not telling you to do all that. But what I'm telling you is that unity starts in your life, in everyday life. Heroes are not made always because of big stuff. It's the day-to-day things. It's the day-to-day interactions. When we leave here, I want you to feel inspired, I want you to feel challenged, and I want to put something on your thought process that you may not have ever thought about before. So at the end of the day, what matters? I'm about to close, I'm about to wrap up. I'm about to ask you guys a support question. I need everybody to raise their hand for one of these two options. This is going to be the most important question I've asked all night. So listen closely. If a tree falls in the woods and nobody's around to hear it, does it make a sound? Raise your hand if you think it makes a sound. Okay, enjoy your own. Raise your hand. Raise your hand if you think it does not make a sound. Somebody raise their hand. Somebody believe me. That's okay, Johnson. The science teacher's upset with you. It does make a sound. Scientifically proven, it does make a sound. I want you to understand, in the world of unity and in the world where we fight for unity, there's three types of people in the world. And they're the same types of people who will answer that question. There's going to be somebody who argues with you that it does make a sound. There's going to be somebody who argues with you that it doesn't make a sound. And there's somebody that's going to argue with you and say, if nobody's there to hear it, it doesn't matter if it makes a sound. When it comes down to unifying the world, there are always going to be people who say things that you don't agree with, that rub you the wrong way. There are always going to be people who do things that rub you the wrong way. But at the end of the day, when you're figuring out who should I keep in my life, who should I not keep in my life, how should I interact with these people, it simply comes down to what matters. Because when this thing's all said and done, how much money you have doesn't matter. None of these things matter. And not to get super serious on y'all, but the last thing I'll say, a lot of people don't think about this, but no matter how you die, there's a split second between the moment where you are alive and your heart takes its last beat and the moment where your heart is not beating. There's 1 second. That's a car accident, a heart attack, whatever the case is, There's 1 second when you take your last heartbeat and then your heart rate is slow. That means quite literally 1 second. In 1 second, all the money you've accumulated, no matter how many buildings your name is on, all of these things, None of these things matter in a matter of 1 second. But what people will remember is how you made them feel, how you interacted with them, and the things that you said. Thank y'all so much for listening. God bless y'all.
Welcome to the stage, your very own ICC's Gospel Sounds.
When I reach the heaven, gonna wear a robe. No man
Dwayne Braylock of Amory, Kiasha Wall and Kishana Woods of Fulton. Thank you. One thing Dee said when he was speaking, something that's really true, and something I've said for years as well. People are some of the most important things on this earth. And I just want to thank everyone who made this happen, and everyone who came tonight. To collect under the singular idea that people are too beautiful for us not to accept somebody based off the color of their skin, their religious identification, or their gender, whatever it may be. It's truly amazing when you have a room full of people gathered and you're able to talk about something as beautiful as unity. And Dee, I want to thank you for doing such an amazing job. And I want to thank you again for all being here. Thank you for being a part of this Unity Day program.